this is going to be a different video. This is going to be just a sitting and a talking video. We're going to talk through something with y'all. And if y'all don't mind, for those of you who like to research, I ask for you to research this as well, because we are very, very busy at the moment. Currently today is a hot mess express. I'm not saying we're not going to do the research on our own. We will, but I just don't know how fast I can get to this. And I think y'all might have some good insight. Now, y'all know we have a parasite problem to the T, like always, right? And we try to manage it the best we can. We do the best we can, and we do really good. But Ellie and I, we just left Big Thicket Vet. We took in a sample of Gus's poop to we took in a fecal sample to Big Thicket because his anemia levels, which is, you know, whenever we pull their eyes down and we kind of push their membrane out, and so you can kind of see the levels. If you want to know what that is, that's called a FAMACHA score. Maybe if I get crafty with editing, I'll put a picture of it up here. And so there's a 5 to a 1. 3 is where you start to talk about dosing your animal. 1 is said to be fatal, and 2 not good. But
the lower it is, the more pale or white it is, and then the higher it is, the more red, which is good because you want to see oxygen-rich red blood.
Exactly. And the parasites essentially live in the ground, and I'm not talking about coccidia. Because that's a whole nother thing. Coccidia isn't a parasite, but it's treated like one. It's a whole nother ball game. We don't seem to have coccidia problems often at all. We have had it, but anytime we've had coccidia, we've had it in tandem with something else, meaning parasites. And the parasites we get are hookworm, tapeworm, roundworm, barber poleworm.
I guess the point that I think that at least I was making when we were talking was that it doesn't feel like, who else has goats? My dad and Jamie, Dan and Lou, Bree, Jake, Paw. And so those are our family we know of that have goats that live in the same area, proximity as us. And
same ground.
They don't seem to be having nearly as many parasite problems as we do.
And they follow different worming. We all follow different worming protocols.
And what's ironic though is that, and this is not to throw shade at anybody, there's other animals, other matters where they are a lot more diligent than we are. But when it comes to the goats and checking their eyes and deworming them, we are like by far the most diligent and the most frequent with.
And that's because we're paranoid. That's because we're paranoid.
Well, we've lost a few before, and the losses hit us really hard, so we're always adamant and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But the point is, though, is that you know, like with not feeding them on the ground and different things and whatnot, like we have just gone above and beyond with the measures for the goats, and they still
are getting sick.
They still get the most sick, and so it's just kind of one of those things, like we're trying
to talk about it and figure out what is going on, which led us to. So let me explain to you how the anemia, I'm sure we've talked about it enough, but just because we're sitting here and talking about this for the sake of the video, how the anemia levels connect to the parasites is they get the parasites off the ground, they go into their tummy, and they live and reproduce in there, and they suck their blood, and that's how they become anemic. So your goat does not technically die from parasites. Technically, your goat dies from being anemic, secondary to parasites.
The anemia is caused by parasites.
Exactly. So, I just lost my train of thought. I don't know where I was going with that. Where was I going?
Yeah, I didn't know where you were going. I thought you were just explaining it.
No, I'm just explaining for people that don't watch every single video. I like to over-explain because sometimes people don't tune in, and I see the same questions asked quite a bit, and I feel like over-explaining is never a bad thing.
Are you hungry? Do you want food?
It's up to you. Okay, he's gonna go get us food. Okay.
I didn't say that. I was just asking.
Okay. So, you know, we're sitting here and evaluating what goats have gotten sick, and when they have, how bad has it been? What has happened? Just all the things, essentially. And remember, goats will have that's where I was going with it. I was going to talk about the appropriate number. Goats can have an appropriate number of parasites, and will, because all animals actually that eat off the ground will have an appropriate number of parasites.
Every organism has germs and bacteria. Humans do.
Just like you do too.
Hand sanitizers only kill 99.9% of germs, and that 0.01% is still billions and trillions of germs in your body and stuff like that. That's how your body builds resistance to stuff, is by having small, controlled amounts of it. I know dudes who inject themselves with small amounts of snake venom to build a genetic antidote. There's people that actually have anti-venom in their body.
I'm sure it's a thing.
is real. I'm serious.
Point is, though, it's like, what, 220 eggs per gram of fecal matter?
250.
250. That's the acceptable number. If you go in and take a fecal in and it's at 100, they're going to be like, yeah, no, there's nothing wrong. You don't need to worm them. Don't do that because you're actually building up resistance to the medicine. And I could go on for another video. Building up resistance to medicine is a whole nother thing that's going on. But we were talking about it and we're like, what goats have we truly lost? And what was their breed, gender, color? I don't know. Let's just deep dive, right?
That's what I was going to say too. That is also that there's a difference between you've actually lost a lot of animals versus, or your animals are always getting sick, versus it feels like you lost a lot of animals and it feels like they're always getting sick. And so when sometimes we get paranoid and a little bit worried and just sit there, we beat ourselves up like, man, we've like lost so many, or man, we've had a lot get sick. And it's like, hold on a minute, like, is it actually a lot that got sick, or does it just feel that way? Does it just seem like that when we're frustrated and when we have our emotions flaring?
And don't mistake it with we're going, oh, we've only lost, what, 3 or 5 or 6, and don't think that 3 isn't too many to us. Losing 3 animals is too many to us. But when you're looking at the reality of this kind of situation of going, how many have you actually lost to parasites, to get data and get, kind of your statistics of it, you have to look at it very literally. And so we went back and we've always said, like, man, our fainting goats are the ones that just don't handle sickness well, is what we've started to notice. And then we went back and we're like, wait.
Well, we go through the ones that get sick, or that kind of get the runs, the diarrhea a little more often.
I've told y'all, we have certain goats that we watch.
Flowers, one that we've had to watch.
Flowers, full fainting. Gus Dad, Bambi Mom.
Yeah, we lost Bambi to coccidia and
actually
pickles.
no, Bambi was trifecta.
Oh, sorry.
We've had the trifecta twice.
Point is, we lost Bambi and Pickles to
Parasites.
And Lulu, the Parasites, who were all fainters. We lost Dill to Parasites, who was a fainter. Hero had the trifecta really bad. Hero had like 2,000 or 10,000.
He was in horrible shape.
But Hero pulled through and Hero survived. He's not a fainting goat.
And he didn't look like he was on death's door either.
No,
he didn't look good.
He just seemed like more resistant to it. Old Mama is at least 11 years old, if not older, and she
we can't catch her, so we can't deworm her sometimes. I'm sorry, I'll say it here.
Yeah.
You cannot catch her.
And she's still fine.
And she's trucking along. She eats. She has normal poos. Normal fecal. I'm sorry.
Walter, Carrie, Little Mama, I'm trying to think of the other non-fainters we have. They never get sick. And so when we started thinking about that, I was like, oh my goodness, it's like a light bulb went off. Is that why we have problems so much? Or why it feels like it is because maybe the fainting goats are less resistant to the parasites than the other goats? Because I'm thinking about my dad, Jamie's, Jake, Bree, Paw, they all have Boers and other non-fainting goats.
We're the only people that have mytonic goats, fainting goats.
And the fainting goats are
my mom's goats, my mom's problem is lice.
Yeah.
Not parasites.
And so we're the only ones with fainters. And so, like Meg said, it's not about the goats being a statistic or like trying to do numbers or math or anything like that. Like, we love our babies in our hearts emotionally, but when we're thinking about, like, is our land bad? Do we need to move? And we're thinking about all these drastic measures and, like, do we need to start deworming this way or that way? All these major changes. It's like, okay, hold on a minute. Like,
let's look at what the source is.
Does the problem actually feel as bad? Is the problem truly catastrophic, or does it just kind of feel that way? And so, is our land any worse than Jake or Breeze or Pawpaw's, who lives?
Because we've questioned that.
Walking distance from us. Why would ours be getting sick, but they 30 seconds away not have the same problem? And
anytime a goat's gotten sick, y'all, anytime I've told you I'm giving medicine to an animal, like a goat, it has not been any other goat other than the mytonic goats, the fainting goats, that have showed symptoms. If I've group treated, it's been because of the mytonic goats, except for that one instance with Hero, when Hero was sick. That happened one time. So
the non-fainters just don't really get sick.
They don't.
You think about a fainting goat in general, what they were bred for. It's really sad, but several hundred years ago they were bred to be prey for predators, because sheep were really valuable at that time and other kinds of goats. So you'd put the fainting goats in your herd, and then when a predator broke into your pasture, the fainting goats would faint like they do, and then the predator would get them, and then your more valuable animals would get away in time.
And so you wonder what their bloodline, how sturdy bloodline species, how resistant they are, because Dr. Cochran did tell us, like, some animals are going to be more resistant than others. Some goats will carry a higher resistance than the others, but in our case, is it really just our fainting goats that are not as resistant? I asked, when Lulu passed, I talked to the vet that saw her, Dr. Steiner, at A&M, and I asked her, have you heard anything about fainting goats not being as healthy as other goats? And she's like, I haven't come across any research. I've asked Dr. Cochran. And so
that doesn't mean no.
But when we think about why people have fainting goats, I don't know how many people have fainting goats just for them to be pets, because Lulu and all of them came from, like, all of our fainting goats came from a show line. Show line goats are dry lotted and fed show goat food, so they get the bulky meat appearance, kind of like Boers are, but Boers aren't just for show. And so if that's what these Mytonic goats are for, I don't know enough about them to, honestly, I only know what I've learned having them, but I don't know about show aspects and all of that. I only know what I know from FFA, and past that, I kind of push show grade out of my mind, because we don't do that. And so I'm not going to take on the knowledge of that until I need it. And so could that be that those dry lotted animals, they've never had to build up the resistance, they've never had to adapt to the parasites because they've always been dry lotted as a whole? I'm sure you've got, here and there animals like ours that are on a regular pasture, but if you're using them for show purpose, you're not turning them out into a pasture. That's just not how it works. From my experience, I could be wrong. So is that the species hasn't adapted? This we'll call it a genre of goats have not had the same exposure as all of the other ones have.
I just think that if they were bred to faint, literally faint on the ground and go stiff-legged when they get scared or frightened, then I almost feel like there's probably other deficiencies in the genetics that go along with it.
You never know.
I don't know for sure, but it's just a correlation. It's just something that we thought about, and we realized that they are the ones who get sick a lot.
They are.
The rest of our family doesn't have those, and so they don't deal with, as far as I know, they don't deal with nearly the same amount of parasite troubles that we do.
And nobody else has full fainters either, except for us. Think about it. Like, who all Gus got pregnant?
Well, yeah, that's...
Nobody else has not. Nobody else. Gus got Carrie pregnant when he was at your dad. So nobody else has full fainters.
I guess that's true. So
we have full fainters.
So yeah, we have the full fainters. Everyone else is like, half fainters, I guess.
Our full fainters are Gus, Weta, Cupid and Bo, Flower and Thumper. Is that it?
I think so.
Am I forgetting somebody? I think that's it.
Yeah.
I think that's it. Those are our full fainters. And I don't have to watch after Cupid and Bo. I used to have to watch Thumper and Flower really close, but recently they've been doing really good. I watch Weta pretty decently, but she's kind of an Eeyore of an animal, so I just watch her anyways. And I watch Gus really close now because I'm paranoid. So...
You know what I think? I think we're just lucky that Angel can't eat off the ground.
And Angel can't eat off
Angel's always been a 5, and his eyes perfectly red every single time I check it. I've checked it for months now. Not once has it...
Angel's great.
Not once has it been
But there's no correlation there either, because think about it. Hero's fine. Carrie's fine. Old Mama's fine. Little Mama's fine. Who else do we got that's fine?
Waltz.
Tallulah. Ryan. They're Nubians.
They're Nubian goats.
So, Walter... They're all fine. I look over at Pickles and Lefty, all of them that Bree has. She doesn't have nearly as many problems. I'm sure every now and then they get a bout of sickness. That's normal. That's farm life. What is not normal is it feels like and I say feels, and it seems like every week we've got somebody who's either sick, dying, or trending downwards while we are doing the most you can do in animal husbandry. And that's not me saying that. That's not him saying that. That's Dr. Cochran and Dr. Steiner saying, no, you did what you were supposed to do animal husbandry wise. Because I've said, tell me if I'm doing something wrong. Tell me if I'm the reason they're dying. And they're like, no, based on what you've told me, you're doing it right. You're doing everything you can.
If anything, a little more than
Exactly.
you probably are expecting to be doing and whatnot.
And so it just seems like there's something not adding up. And so what happens if our theory is correct moving forward? We're not going to get rid of our fainting goats. We love them. We just have to expect that they don't handle... I'm sorry about the shaking. We're in Plum Grove again. And the roads aren't good. So what do we do moving forward? We watch them closely. And we don't get paranoid when we see them trending downwards, but we come up with a treatment plan for them. And we just realize that, hey, they don't handle this as well. And we need to keep a different treatment plan for them instead of the other goats. Because you can't make the other goats suffer and build a resistance to the medicine because these guys are suffering more, you know? Suffering is not the word to use, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's tricky. I want to know what y'all might know. I know that there are some of y'all out there that have animals and have livestock. I don't know if y'all like to go and read academic journals or anything. For me, reading research is hard, and because I like to find very credible sources, so I will dig deep for a while. But we're going to do our research. But if you have anything that you've heard of, let us know. We're open to learning anything, you know. And we've asked our vets, and they're busy with their own stuff, you know. So I'm not going to ask our vets to go do a deep dive on fainting goats, you know. So if y'all have heard anything, know anything, let us know. Like I said, there's nothing we can really do about it except be even more proactive with them. And if our theory is true, I would love to know. We may never know, but based on, I think, what we have come up with together, I think we're already going to start treating the fainters a little bit differently than we treat everybody else. And that's okay. That's called animal husbandry. Sometimes, just like you differentiate for a kid in school, you differentiate for your animals as well. So let me know what you think. Sorry we've rambled. Sorry this is a different video, but I think it could be educational, and I think it could be a good learning experience for us as well. So, okay, y'all, end of video here. Real quickly, I want to give some updates since we filmed that video. So we did get Gus's results back, and he had like barely any parasites, like not even enough that you can consider treating him. So that's not the answer. So we're not exactly sure why his FAMACHA is trending downwards, but we did talk to Dr. Cochran on the phone. She's not concerned, but she did say if we are concerned, let's go ahead and bring him in next week, which we're going to do, and let's talk through and make sure we're checking the FAMACHA right, because she did say it sounds like y'all are very traumatized, and rightfully so after everything that we've gone through. And she knows everything that happened with Okie. She knows that we've lost goats previously before. Also, there was no coccidia. I made sure to ask all of that. And so we'll bring him in. She said, you know, the physical exam is the best thing that we can do. You know, we can do a little more. Fecal can only do so much, but the fecal can do a lot for us when we know parasites are our problem. But going further, we need the physical exam. So that's what we're going to do. She, you know, like I said, she said, it sounds like y'all are traumatized. Like, I was pretty much crying on the phone while we were talking to her. And, you know, she's like, sometimes when animal owners get traumatized and it gets to this point, sometimes you almost make it seem worse than it is. And you panic and freak out when there's not actually anything to panic or freak out about. But she said, you're always welcome to bring him in. And so she was very, very kind about it all. And she's like, I understand that you're scared, because I told her, you know, I was like, I check their eyes every day. I'm terrified. And she goes, I mean, after what you've seen, I get it. She even said, with my own animals, when they get sick, I get stupid. I forget I'm a vet. And so very glad that it's not parasites, and we can get through this weekend without a problem. But we are going to take him in just to see what's going on and see if we can just learn a little bit more, because ultimately that's what we want to do, is learn. And if a FAMACHA is something that we can check, you know, we want to know more about it and know more about what's the cause of anemia, because I know for a fact it's not lice, because I deloused them. I did that video on Facebook. They're dewormed. So, you know, those are your two main ones that would be like your obvious like blood-sucking parasites that would make them anemic, but that's not the case. So we'll take him in, see what she says. But he's feeling great. He's running around, and that's what she asked. She goes, "Are you seeing any other clinical signs?" And I was like, "No, just the eyes." And she's like, "Okay, he's fine right now. Like, let's calm down. Let's get him in for an appointment." I also bought this stuff. It's called Bioworma, and essentially it's like a natural dewormer, and you put it in their feed, and then it goes into their bellies, and it just helps control worms. But then what happens is when they do their business, it comes out into the fecal matter, and the fecal matter goes into the soil, so it helps control the parasites in the soil via the Bioworma. So we're gonna try that out. It wasn't cheap, I'm not gonna lie, but we're gonna see what it does, and we'll know more soon. But it's been an adventure, and we're just trying to do everything we can to keep everybody happy and healthy. So thanks for watching. If you have any input, any ideas, let us know. I'll catch y'all next time with another one. Bye, friends.